Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is a review of the 1993 crime, comedy, romance film, a jack-of-all-trades kind of movie, Teenage Bonnie and Klepto Clyde. Now, before I get into sharing my thoughts on the film, I want to give a very special shout out once again to Brock for requesting this review. And if you have a film that you would like to see me review or a topic you would like me to discuss, feel free to donate to my PayPal. The link will be in the video description. Now, enough of the promos, enough of the talking about stuff that doesn't have anything to do with the movie. Let's get to the review. So, this is a film that I went into it with really low expectations because I gotta be honest, it did not really give me the best first impression. The title, Teenage Bonnie and Klepto Clyde, is a really dumb and daft title. Uh, it makes your eyes roll out the back of your head. And I knew that it was a direct-to-video production. I think I had seen a trailer for it on one of the VHS tapes that I had a long time ago, but it didn't really leave that much of a mark. So it was just one of those movies that I went into it with really low expectations, and I was honestly a little bit surprised by this one. I wouldn't say it's a gem, it's a diamond in the rough. I don't think it's good enough to deserve that distinction, but I honestly did feel, because of a few elements and because of its strengths, I felt that this movie was above average when it comes to a direct-to-video movie. And let's be honest here, most direct-to-video movies are not very good. The ratio of even average direct-to-video movies is very small, especially if you're going to combine direct to VOD, which is what direct to video is now. It's no longer direct to VHS or DVD. It's a direct to streaming, and there is a absolute glut of just god awful movies when it comes to that particular part of film, in terms of selecting a movie for an audience to watch. So this being above average is above the norm for this kind of film. And it's honestly more than I expected from it. So I was ultimately pretty pleased and pretty satisfied with this movie, despite the fact that, yes, it does have some moments where it trips up, or it shoots blanks, or it doesn't quite hit its target. But there were other things that the film really had going for it that ultimately made it an interesting and fairly enjoyable movie for me. So it's directed by John Shepphird, and this is actually his first film that he directed, John Shepphird. Uh, and you could tell that it's a first-time director, kind of working out the kinks and trying to figure things out. And there are some shots, especially in the film's bloody climax, that are, I thought, well done for a first-time director, or just a director period. But for the most part, the direction here is very static. It's very standard. It's nothing really that impressive. I know he had a low budget, but there are other directors who are just really talented and genuinely gifted who can make up for that. And I don't feel that he was one of those directors, but at the same time, I don't think he did a terrible job. So, doing an adequate, okay job that doesn't knock your socks off, it doesn't blow you away, is not really a bad result for a first-time director. Plus, I don't think it helped either that he had, a cinematographer who didn't really elevate things either. And, when it comes to the other technical aspects of the movie, like the editing, a lot of that is very average too. So we didn't really have anything from the technical standpoint when it comes to his crew that really were able to elevate his performance, or give him a little bit of a boost. So he just did the best that he could and that he knew how. And you know what? That worked. That worked for this direct-to-video movie. Might not have worked for a theatrical film, but for a direct-to-video movie, it's fine. It's acceptable. I accept that kind of direction that's just middle of the line, middle of the road, if it's just a direct-to-video movie. Different standards for direct-to-video films than theatrical movies. Now, the screenplay by Steve Jankowski and John Shepphird, who all, so he pulled double duty here. I don't know how much of the script he wrote. This script, it does have some set pieces that I did enjoy. It has a nice, quirky vibe to it that really does add to the entertainment of the movie. It doesn't take itself too seriously for the most part, but when it needs to really shift the tone into a more serious direction, it actually manages to successfully pull that off. Which is why I would have liked to have seen this script embrace more of the seriousness, at least more of the darkness. I think this could have been a real gem if it was more of a mix of black comedy, plus a little bit of the quirkiness, and serious drama, or maybe not serious drama, but at least beef up the action sequences. Then you could have a really unique, cool, crazy movie. But as it is, it has these ideas and these concepts, but it doesn't really fully flesh them out. It doesn't really give them enough ammo to really light up the screen. So that being said, though, there are some really fun stuff. Like, I like the quirkiness, especially when it comes to sequences like the bank robbery scene. With just simple stuff like how Bonnie and Clyde make all the bank tellers and the people who work at the bank wear paper bags with smiley faces on them. And then they leave behind a tape recorder with all these different threats that they're making while they're making their getaway. And the threats that they're making are completely harmless and, similarly kind of silly, sort of quirky stuff. The fact that Bonnie and Clyde are always just banging and going to town with each other when they commit a crime. They're even so brazen to the point where they're in a van, like just a few feet away from the crime scene after they've robbed the bank, and they're just going to town on one another while the cops are all around them. That brazen attitude when it comes to this script is really appealing. That is one of the biggest selling points about it is these rebel teenagers who are being rebellious outlaws, and it really does tie into the overall strengths of the two leads in Scott Wolf and Maureen Flannigan. They are not the best actors. They still are really rough around the edges when it comes to their ability to act and to perform, but they have a lot of energy and they have genuine chemistry with one another. So that enthusiasm that they have and that energy makes up for some of the other parts of the script that aren't up to snuff, and makes these quirky elements and these set pieces and these moments where they really get to just go all out and be crazy all the more effective, because they are the ones that are really making it work. The script is there, but in this particular film's case, the screenplay is more of it's not really what is creating that energy or that chemistry. It is actually the actors and their work. So it creates a different dynamic, and for this kind of movie, it really does work because they are the two leads. They have the most screen time, and they are the ones that the story is centered on. And because they are so good together, you can't help but in some ways root for them to make it out in the end and make it a lot, make it out of this crime spree alive. So yeah, I will give the screenplay credit for having that backdrop, having that ability to allow these actors to really take over the story and the film. It's actually good strategy for a script if you're not really the most established screenwriter. Um, and there's a few lines of dialogue that I liked and got a chuckle out of me. The one about shooting shoplifters with deadly force was a nice little dark comic line that the film pretty opened up with. I wish it would have had more dark comic stuff like that, but you know, I appreciate the fact that it did go there when it had the opportunity to do so. And speaking of going there, the ending is absolutely uh, just violent and hardcore. It really is a very dark ending for this film that is advertised as being zany and over the top and so on and so forth. And for the most part, the film really is that. It's a lot of it is just a romp. But then when you have the ending, it just makes things uh, even more powerful in terms of these adventures that Bonnie and Clyde have been going on throughout the film. I like the fact that the screenplay set up these characters as and their relationship at first as just being for the thrills. But then as the film goes on longer, they actually develop a genuine bond and real love for one another. And that is what makes the final sequence in the film so effective because it took them all of this debauchery and all of this lawlessness, and it took them throwing away their lives essentially in order to realize the love that they actually have for one another, and to see that it's actually stronger than just for cheap thrills. And but by that point it's just too late. They've gone past the point of no return. So when you get to the ending, it honestly is legitimately tragic, especially when you consider how young these two characters are. Uh, it adds a different dynamic when you have teenage Bonnie and Clyde instead of a little young adult Bonnie and Clyde, that kind of thing. But I think they were fairly young anyway, if I remember correctly, the real Bonnie and Clyde. Um, but yeah, it's something that easily could have come across as forced, but it feels very natural with this kind of story in this particular film. Also, throughout the screenplay, there's a lot of references to fate, and it makes me wonder if the intent was to throw the idea out there that maybe the Bonnie and Clyde in this film are the reincarnation of the real Bonnie and Clyde. But that isn't really fully fleshed out, and I understand why, because that would have been really, honestly, pretty complicated to pull off. So I understand why they didn't go that route, but it would have been interesting to see a little bit more of that. But on one hand, I see why they went with the approach that they did, because it just leaves it up to interpretation. And once again, the ending is dark, but I that was the ending I was hoping that this film would have, considering that it's the story of Bonnie and Clyde. It's only fitting that their run ends the same way as the infamous duo did in reality. It's only fitting that that's what happened. So yeah, not the greatest script in the world. Another thing that I would have liked to have seen more of with this script is a little bit more uh, of a glimpse into Clyde's kleptomania or his criminal side, because he's introduced as a nerdy character who works at a burger place and gets walked all over by people. And it just seems like a really jarring flip when he decides to steal cars and do all this stuff to try to get Bonnie to want to be with him. I really think that the script could have done a better job really showcasing his criminal, side. The fact that he's every bit as much of a criminal or someone who really wants to go over the edge as Bonnie. Uh, but I mean, yes, script could be better. Humor also could have been improved, because from a humor standpoint, especially when you have someone like Don Novello, an SNL legend in your cast, really would have been nice to have a little bit more consistency when it comes to the quality of the jokes or the amount of them. And also, when it comes to the story, the stuff that involves the former boyfriend of Bonnie, Kirk, that guy is just the stuff with him is completely useless. He didn't even need to be in the movie, other than the opening sequence at the burger joint, and the whole thing, the whole moment when when he ditches Bonnie at the record store, because the stuff that he does later on is just not needed, if you ask me. So yeah, the script, decent, nothing spectacular, but there's still enough going on. There's still enough going for it that it works. Could work better, but it still works. And like I said, one of the biggest selling points about this film is the two leads, Scott Wolf and Maureen Flannigan. I thought they were a great couple. They were a great pair. Like I said, what they made it, what they had when it comes to inadequacies with their acting, they made up for it with their energy and their enthusiasm and their chemistry with one another. And the other members of the cast did fine too. In particular, Tom Bauer as Peter Baker, Bonnie's father, and Don Novello, Father Guido Sarducci himself, really showed that he was a more talented actor than a lot of people gave him credit for. That he had more facets to his acting repertoire than what people initially might have thought. I would have liked to have seen more deadpan or more lines where he had the ability to show his comedic chops, because he has one of the best deadpans in the business. But he still pulled off the serious role rather well. I got Joe Mantegna vibes from him, and that's a good thing. Speaking of Joe Mantegna, I think that's who was in Homicide. There's a nice little look at Clyde's room, and there's all these movie posters on the wall, including people under the stairs. I think there's a Full Moon film. There's like Bikini Car Wash. There's a lot of variety on his wall. Poster for the movie Homicide, which that one really stood out, because you're like, of all things, the serious crime drama Homicide. Okay, all right. But yeah, that was a fun little touch. This film definitely has a personality to it. It's rather undeniable, whether it's from the performances by the cast members or with its screenplay, and that really did help it rise above average for me. The personality that the film had. That being said, like I said, the technical elements of this movie are rather average. They really are average. Nothing special when it comes to the cinematography by Neil Brown or the editing by Brent White. Now, the score by Terry Plumeri, for the most part, it's pretty forgettable in one note, but the main theme for Bonnie and Clyde, I thought it was actually really good. It had a really haunting feel to it. It was genuinely catchy, and then it was used really well in a song at the end credits that added even more emotion to the film's bloody finale. And by bloody, I truly mean bloody. Like, there are blood squibs, and I mean serious blood squibs. It's very violent, and they don't really pull any punches when it comes to the final denouement for Bonnie and Clyde in this film. Um, but yeah, I really like that song, "Cross the Line." That's why I actually uploaded it on my channel. So if you're curious about listening to it, it's on my channel. Just search "Across the Line" and you should find it. With some really nice, mesmerizing, and equally haunting vocals by I think it's Vicky. I think it's Vicky McClure. I think that's who it is. I know I should probably know exactly who it is because I just posted the yeah, Vicky McClure. I was right. Anyway, yeah, I thought that was good, but other songs on the soundtrack were not as good. Like, for example, there's this song that plays way too much in the soundtrack called "Booty Booty." That song was annoying. It was obnoxious. It's like in the style of like an old sort of 50s song, you know, like "Rudy Doody, Booty Booty, Rudy Booty," you know, like that kind of thing. It's like that old song that I think that was used in like Big Bully with Rick Moranis and Tom Arnold. But this time around, they changed the lyrics to "Booty Booty, I'm gonna get some booty 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 Booty," and it was just "Booty Booty," like it was just fucking annoying. It was just too much energy, and the whole song was just about getting some ass, I guess. And I just wanted to kick the song's ass. Like, I wanted to just take my boot and just kick it right in the ass and kick it out of the movie because I was so done with that song. They played it way too many times. But yeah, I really don't know what else to say about the movie. I mean, it went by at a decent enough pace. It was only like 90-something minutes. I didn't think it was that boring or that dull. Once Bonnie and Clyde get together and start their crime spree, to me, I thought it was a fun little romp because of the two leads. And yeah, it's one of those films where I can see why it didn't really leave much of an impression on some people. I can see why critics weren't super big on it, and I can see why if you decided to check it out, you wouldn't be that impressed by it either. But I liked it. I liked the charm of the film. I liked the personality, and in particular, I really liked the two leads. I thought they really did a good job in this particular film. But like I said, story could have been better, could have been tighter, could have had more to it, and that would have made it a genuine gem or diamond in the rough. But as it is, you could do a whole hell of a lot worse when it comes to the direct-to-video genre, and I'd recommend it if you like quirky crime comedies. I would recommend checking this out sometime. And yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. Thanks for watching my review, and as always, I'll see you later. See ya.